are a Northwest guy, like you said. Being from Washington, have you been to Boise before? What are your thoughts on our fabulous town here?
I've been to Boise a number of times. I've always liked it. It's a great community, great town. I've been here pretty much all times a year. Been here for football games and sporting events, and just been here on vacation. I was the provost at Montana State University up in Bozeman, a town that's not as big, obviously, but has some similarities, and I love this kind of town.
Now, some historic moments have happened here in the tournament, over the years, and here at Taco Bell Arena. What are your thoughts on just having the tournament here in Boise again?
Well, it's great to be back. It's a place that obviously the tournament's been to a bunch of times. I guess this is our 9th, visit here. We're coming back again in 21, so it's a place that the NCAA likes. The community works really, really hard at providing the right kind of environment, and we do get some great games. We've already had some great games. We're going to have a couple more today.
I'm curious, obviously Boise State, a team that, trying to fight to get into the tournament, didn't make it this year, but I'm curious, you look at Middle Tennessee didn't get in, St. Mary's didn't get in, and I know you're obviously not on the committee or anything, but what do you make of the smaller teams that it's seemingly more and more are getting left out, and it's harder to get a team like a Boise State who on paper maybe looked like they should have got in compared to like a Syracuse or Oklahoma? How do you kind of look at just the current state of the will guys in college basketball?
Yeah, I think it is hard right now, and for the committee, I'm always really proud of this committee. It's one of the most objective, thoughtful processes I've ever seen, and while I don't get to put in my 2 cents, it's always great to see them work through it and struggle. I think this year, for most of those guys that have been on the committee 5 full years, this is the toughest year they've had. A lot of parity, a lot of teams, especially in the middle there, who was going to be the first in, who was going to be the first out. Those were tough choices, and it is hard to figure out when you're looking at a Boise or Middle Tennessee or any number of schools, St. Mary's, who's got quality wins, and they put in place a new system that the basketball coaches wanted to put in place this year. It led to some good decisions and some hard ones. So it's tough. It's tough on those kids that play so hard all year long, and they got a great record in their conference, but you can only put 68 teams in, and you got to draw a line somewhere. I'm
curious. I know you're getting grilled about the FBI investigation, but I know you mentioned significant changes, and one of your recent interviews might be coming. I'm just curious more from what's ahead. What do you see kind of the future of where this is all headed?
Yeah. So. We put together, my board and I put together a commission that's being chaired by Condoleezza Rice. I invited a number of very, very prominent people in the basketball world and higher ed world to join in on it. They've been working very, very diligently since the fall. They're going to bring forward their recommendations to me into the Board of Governors, which is a group of 16 university presidents. They're going to bring that forward in April. Those recommendations are going to be aimed at a number of things, thinking about what should be a professional track for young men who may not want to really go to college, but they want to play professionally. Now, we don't have responsibility for that, but we work with our friends and colleagues in the NBA to try and help them work on that issue. So we've got to find a way to deal with that, the so-called one and done phenomenon. We've got to make sure that works well. We've got interesting challenges around summer ball, so-called AAU ball, and we've got to find a way to make that be a system that the NCAA, maybe USA Basketball, have more engagement in and have more ability to control what that environment looks like for our coaches and the kids who want to come to college. We gotta work harder around how we manage this whole issue with agents. The system of agent certification now works fine for the NBA, but if you've got interaction with pre-college students or even college students, and we change our rules to look more like baseball or hockey, what does that really look like? How do we know who the agents are? How would we manage those kind of relationships? People are talking about that as part of this. Need to strengthen up our enforcement system in some key ways that we could talk about. I know the Commission's going to work on that. And then we got to make sure that these relationships with the apparel companies is appropriate for them and appropriate for us. The allegations coming out of the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's offices around their engagement has been really shocking. So those are the key areas that they're working on. We'll see a bunch of changes around those. I don't know what the Commission's recommendations precisely are going to be. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, for you, obviously being at the top of the totem pole, you get the positive reactions, you get the negative, criticism and stuff like that. What's it like for you when all this is kind of swirling, where everyone kind of it's their chance to, rag on the NCAA or whatever. How do you kind of look at all this?
Yeah, it's frustrating only for me. It's not frustrating personally. People are going to say what they're going to say. That's fine. But what's frustrating is that people often miss what the NCAA really is. They're often shocked to hear this is 1,100 colleges and universities, 19,000 teams, right? 475,000 student athletes, all playing all these other sports. You look at just men's basketball in Division I alone, about 5,500 kids playing that game. You got problems around 20, 30, 40 of them. They're missing 95% of what's going on, but the whole world focuses on those handful of things that are bad. And that's troubling because you miss what's going on at Boise State, right? You miss the kids that are having great experiences, great success on the court, in the classroom, and that's the great majority of it. So I work hard to try and get people to recognize that there's mostly wonderful things happen here, great opportunities for kids. Yeah, we got problems, and we got to own them. We can't back away from that. That's on us to fix, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
So is the overall state of college athletics, and in particular basketball, would you go encouraged, discouraged, concerned? What do you kind of see as kind of just the overall state right now of college athletics, and in particular what's going on with basketball?
Yeah, well, especially around basketball, you got to say it's just frustrating as heck, right? Again, because most of it's really, really good. Mostly it's working just the way it's supposed to, but where the things that are wrong, that's just god-awful, and we got to fix that. We got to make sure that that piece doesn't ruin the experience and ruin the integrity for everybody else in the game.
Did you watch the 116 game last night?
How could you not?
Yeah. What were your thoughts on that in terms of being good for the sport, or just the history last night?
I thought it was just, first of all, it was a great basketball game to see the UMBC team play at that level, because they just plain won the game. It wasn't a fluky game at all. They played incredibly well. How exciting for that team, for that university, for all those individuals to go into that kind of game and play that well. It is part of the allure of March Madness and the NCAA tournament, right? Is that anybody can line up against anybody and they got a chance to win. We've seen already some terrific games here about that. We may well see some more. So I think those kind of games are fun. They're exciting. The audiences love them, and for the students, it's the best thing in the world.
And I guess final question, I know you've been making the rounds to the other sites and stuff. What's this like this time of year like for you? Just a lot of these kind of interviews, but getting to see the games and stuff and traveling. What's this whole thing like for you when the whole season's kind of coming down to these last few weeks?
Yeah, well, it's great fun, first of all, to see these kids getting to enjoy this environment. You run out onto this court to play, the first round or second round of the NCAA tournament. That's as good as it gets, for kids, and it's so fun to see how excited they are, how much they're enjoying it. It's great to see communities come together around these games. I was in Wichita, I was in Detroit, I'm here, go to San Diego. What those all have in common is the communities just step up and enjoy the games and have a great time with it. It is in a lot of ways a culmination of a lot of work on a lot of people's parts. I have very little responsibility here. I get to sit back and watch the games, right, and take it all in, but the community, my staff, these teams, they've all been working all year long to make this go well, so it's fun.